It's time to take a look inside high school sports.
Can I have both Mighty and Minio Tapio, please? Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Inside High School Sports. Oh, I love that intro. It gets me so excited. Welcome to Inside High School Sports. I'm your host, Tony Caligiuri, along with our resident troublemaker, Roger Weiss, and from WNY Athletics. Frank Wolf is he's playing hooky. He's not here today, but we have
He's tired. He went to Albion last night. He's pretty tired.
He's tired?
Yeah.
I'm tired too, but I'm here. Tom Prince is here, Francis Beck from WNY Athletics. Frank is, let's check in on Frank.
I went to Jamestown, I'm here.
He's not used to making like hour-long drives like you are.
Frank's getting up there in age. I think that's what it is, Raj. I don't know. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you, Tony?
I'm great. I'm tired too. I'm exhausted. I didn't get much sleep, and I still have housework and stuff to do. Got to cut the lawn today. But what a difference in weather between this week and last week. But I'm not going to complain. This is kind of starting to get you in the mood for the fall and leaves falling. And oh, by the way, who wants to come over and rake leaves this year for me? I'm going to need help. All right, guys, let's get into news and notes. But before, oh wait, I need.
Morning, y'all.
Thank you. Now we can get to news and notes. And we are going to bring on Rich Gray, who's the head of we're on the Frontier Boosters Club. And they want to bring some awareness to a vote that is coming up for a new turf field for Frontier High School. Good morning, Rich.
Hello.
Yes, Rich. Good morning.
How you doing? I'm sorry, I got a little wind blowing. I'm out watching our JV football team play right now. So
How they doing?
the wind. Well, it's 0-0, and we just went 3 and out on defense, so we're really fired up right now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you guys do have a big vote coming up, and Nate Geary sent me a message, says, you know, can you get have some room for Rich Gray to come on and during news and notes, and tell us about the vote, when it is, and what's at stake.
Yeah, so we've got a huge vote coming on in our community September 27th for a bond, capital bond, to put in a multi-purpose field turf inside our football stadium that we can play boys and girls lacrosse, boys and girls soccer, and of course football. And it's got huge impact for our kids, the ability to practice all year long pretty much. And it would be a really, really great thing for our community and getting Hamburg Little Loop out on our field and the Hamburg Monarchs and all the youth programs that we have that currently use our fields and spaces.
Rich, as a youth coach at Niagara Falls Junior Football Club, we play on a turf field, and I can't tell you what an advantage it is on a rainy day to go out there and have a nice clean field, not worrying about mud puddles and things like that. It's huge.
Yeah, it's such an advantage, you know, in the spring with the weather we have, and we have very successful girls lacrosse program and our boys team and baseball and softball, and sometimes they can't get outside until their first game.
Right.
We're going against other schools that have been outside maybe 15, 20 times. You know, so, you know, it's a safety thing. It's a competitive disadvantage, and it would just be a great thing for our kids.
And if I'm not mistaken, in the long run, doesn't that field pay for itself?
It does pay for itself. You know, you're able to play multiple games back to back. You could play 3 games a night on them. Not do any wear and tear to the goal lines or the field. And you don't have to paint it every week and cut it. And, you know, every summer we have to keep all teams off our grass field so we can work on areas that were damaged throughout the year.
Yeah, because you need time for the grass to grow back.
Right, right.
Well, Raj has a question for you, Rich.
Yeah, a couple things, Rich. Number one, would that also, the bond be just for the football field, or would that include the softball and the baseball diamonds as well?
Unfortunately, right now, it's just for the football field. We do have future plans, hopefully, to add a turf baseball and softball field, but that's way down the line. Our first goal is to get this approved first.
Okay, and number two, speaking of riches from Frontier, we got to give a shout to your soccer coach. he's just having a good old time there, and,
On the pitch. Don't call it a field, it's the pitch.
it's the pitch, okay, and also, you know, we'd love to see that turf field, because, you got a seventh grader that's gonna be showing off for the next 4 or 5 years out there, and, we just wanted to make sure we give him a shout. Congratulations to Rich Kozak, and congratulations to you. Your soccer program is the real deal.
Yeah, we're really happy. We just won a huge game on the road last night, 3-0 versus a very powerful Lancaster team. Take my hat off to the boys. They're really working hard. We've got a young goalie who's just doing a great job. And of course, our coach, you know, as you guys know, it's no secret. If you want to win, you got to put in the hours. You got to work all year, and you got to sacrifice a lot. So I take my hat off to Coach Kozak and the time and effort he's put into his program.
Absolutely. Rich, Francis Beck has a question for you.
Yeah, I know in a lot of districts, I know at least Kenmore, 98% of this was covered by the state. Do you know perhaps the number that would be covered by the state, or maybe better, how much would taxpayers have to pay for this facility?
75% of this project is going to be paid by the state. Roughly on a $100,000 house, it will be at $3 a year for 15 years onto your taxes. So an assessed house of $100,000 would be $3 a year for 15 years to pay this off.
So, you know, if Roger was living there, it'd be like $12, $15 for. Hey, Rich.
What, my $500,000 home? No, you wish.
Castle Weiss would be more like it. Rich, best of luck to you guys. I hope this passes, and wishing you all the best and much success in the future.
Well, thank you very much for having us on, and go Falcons.
All right, there you go, Rich Gray with the Boosters Club for Frontier High School. All right, news and notes. Big shout out and thank you to Drew Surza, the Wing King, for having us out there last week. We had a blast judging the wings. I think I counted up. I sampled 44 wings. Now, Raj, you didn't do you did the walking around thing, and you guys were done well before us. Did you even come close to 44?
Well, Anthony, you say I walk around, you say like I wasn't, I mean, put yourself in my position. I can sit with you and eat wings, or I can walk around with Lauren Fix.
Yeah, you had the better
right.
of the situation there. I'm not gonna lie.
But
you guys were back early.
We had 19 stops and like, whoa, and well, let's put it this way. I sat for a while, and when I went to the car, I sat in the air-conditioned car. I still punted the UB game. I was so drained.
Yeah, you were wiped out when I saw you last.
Man, and I was wiped out till about 8 o'clock that evening. Well, no, let's make it 7:30. I did wake up in time for the Notre Dame Michigan game, which you don't want to hear about.
No, I don't.
All right, then I won't say anything about it.
By the way, Michigan, I'm available to take over and kick Harbaugh out. He obviously can't coach. Nick had to tap out early. He said, I'm full, I can't eat anymore. He said, and they said, yeah, no problem. But it was a great time. But, you know, it was, mid-80s, something like that around there. I see two guys walking around. They're dressed like Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. I was sweating just looking at these two. Like, what are you doing? It's too hot to dress like that.
But
you gonna bring up the army tent and the dress of those girls?
Yeah. But the other thing I have in mind, you know, it paid for me to go there, because one of the places that bought in wings, I can't think of it, it's something bio, but they're in Binghamton. Now when I go down for the BCANY, guess where I'm going for
Oh, yeah,
lunch?
good call.
And,
No, we had, it was, there was some wings that surprised me. There was like a garlic creamy
Oh,
parmesan.
awesome.
That was way better. I looked at him like, it didn't look appetizing, but once I bit in, I was like, wow, this is tasty. There was one that was like a peach-infused hot sauce that was tasty. You don't think the two would go together, but they did. So it was a great time. Packed, a lot of people there.
Did you miss the fact that they didn't have your favorite wings? Peanut butter and jelly?
They did have it. Yes, we tasted it. It was there, and I saw. I don't remember what stand it was, but I saw it on one of the menus, because you know I do a walk around before we start, you know, just to kind of take in what's out there and to see the various places. I mean,
What, you can't wait until they bring them to you? You have to go eat out in the,
no, for me, I'm curious as the out-of-town places. I like, looking at, there was, one from London, England, was it Skippy Ridge or something like that?
the advanced scout for the chicken wings is Anthony.
Might as well, so, let's see, I saw New Mexico, Portland, Oregon.
And Mexico as well.
And
as New
Mexico. So I like that part. I take pictures of it. I posted a whole bunch on my Facebook page. So great time. Thank you, Juicers. We really appreciate it. All right, news and notes, Tom Prince.
So, you remember, Tony, on the show, we brought in a incredible young woman. Her name was Kaylin Klein
Correct.
into the show. And Kaylin, at the time, was diagnosed with hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, is what she was diagnosed with. And ultimately, what she was told was that you are not going to play sports from here on moving forward.
And she loves her sports.
Oh, no doubt. And she is phenomenal at the sports that she's at. She's actually at St. Mary's now is where she's at. Well, here's somebody who has proven everybody wrong. So what she went out and did was said I was going to pick up some golf clubs and I'm going to be able to be a golfer is what she's done. Not only has she now gone on the golf course and is going to play golf, she made the boys team over at St. Mary's in Lancaster.
Heads up for all you guys out there, if you're looking for long term, future husbands, your opinion only counts if she agrees with it.
But really, a huge shout out needs
That's
to go.
awesome.
What this young woman has accomplished
Yeah.
is amazing. Heart of gold. You really want to be around her for what she can accomplish, and she is just showing that no matter what's going to get in her way,
She's going to overcome it.
she's going to overcome it.
Outstanding. I was so
Speaking
happy
of
for
St.
her.
Mary's today, Anthony, I hope I bump into her. I'm going there for the annual St. Mary's girls volleyball tournament right after the show.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Forgot to mention that earlier, but yeah, it's, a lot of the good girls volleyball teams will be at St. Mary's, and it goes all day. Started at 8:30.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up for news and notes, unless you have anything else, Raj,
No, that's it.
Francis, Tom. All right, let's get into the scores from last night, and then we'll start discussing the games. By the way, if, and this goes out to our buddy in Fredonia, he asked me last night, where do I go for scores and updates? Go to WNYathletics.com
/scoreboard.
and you can catch all the scores there, or follow you guys on Twitter handle.
At WNY Athletics, we're going to be retweeting as many accounts as we find that tag us. And we also, we get help from, and again, that scoreboard page, that's updated like live. We have a guy in the office, as soon as he gets an update, he puts it in there, and it's all live. Right now, it's the Saturday games are on there, so we'll be keeping track of them. And then the final scores are in section6football.com.
And if you want to tag me in any scores, I do appreciate getting scores. Tony, at Tony 10764. All right, week 2 highlights. We have Pioneer over Iroquois, 42-14. Dunkirk in a close one over Tonawanda, 24-22. Maryville all over Newport, 62-6. North Tonawanda coming from behind to beat Sweet Home, 25-yard field goal with just seconds left. NT 20, Sweet Home 17. Newfane over Burgard, 35-8. Bennett beating Lockport, 51-7. West Seneca West 42, Ken West 7. Fredonia over Alden, 50-14. McDowell beating St. Joe's in a close one, 24-21. Cattaraugus Little Valley 20, Roy Hart 7. Jamestown beating Hamburg 28-14. Franklinville/Ellicottville 27. Salamanca 12. Portville over Allegheny Limestone 37-19. Albion over Lackawanna 43-8. Medina Lindenville Barker 28. Springville 24. Orchard Park doubling up Niagara Falls 28-14. Gowanda over JFK 44-12. Cheektowaga over East Aurora/Holland 31-0. Silver Creek beating Akron 42-6. Will East 26, Ken East 25 in a close game. Erie beating St. Francis 35-21. Olean over Depew 39-29. West Seneca East 36, Williamsville South 28. Will North in overtime over Clarence 41-35. McQuaid beating Canisius 42-37. Star Point 54, Amherst 21. Aaron Chase 472 yards passing, 7 TDs. Lancaster beating Hutch Tech 35-18. There are your scores from last night, and I promised I was going to set Roger off, and I'm going to do that right now. At least I think I will. I think we have a front runner for the Connolly Cup right now, and that's a lot of people that's going to be chasing, and they're going to have a lot of ground to catch up, and that's Aaron Chase of Star Point. You cannot argue with those statistics. Over 800 yards passing, maybe even 900. So about close to 900 or just over in passing.
417 the first week. So 417, and what'd you say, 470 here? So probably
472.
just shy.
Just shy of it. And 11 touchdowns in just 2 games.
That's all?
That's it.
Tony, I'm in agreement with it. He's got to right now be for the early lead right now out there.
And if you remember, Dick Gallagher said this was going to be the year of the quarterback. And right now we have a quarterback that's jumped out of the gate early. Oh, you said that, Tom? I thought Dick said that. Sorry.
Oh, the tease and stuff.
So,
And
obviously he's jumped out of the gate quickly
Oh.
and taking the reins right now.
I mean, those are real. Those numbers are incredible.
Now, mind you, yeah, they're in a spread offense. They're throwing it all over the place.
What did you notice earlier this week, there was an article in the Buffalo News about the St. Francis quarterback and the yardages he threw, but other than listing the top 10 all-time yardage, total yardage per game, wasn't even mentioned in the article. So some
I think
people
Aaron Chase had
maybe-
another article.
Well, I hope so, but I'm not saying, it should take anything away from the St. Francis quarterback, but at least they could have acknowledged it. It was 3 different quarterbacks this past week moved into the top 10 in yardage, passing yardage per game.
It's amazing. Well, it's it's the day and the age. I mean, more and more teams are throwing the ball. You guys who talk traditional teams that have always been ground and pound, all of a sudden now they're flinging it all over the field.
Yeah, Tony, you want to talk about quarterbacks? Cole Snyder, 5 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 2 rushing for Southwestern. Garrett Hinsdale was 10 of 12, 126 yards and 2 TDs. That was in just 1 half last night in their big win over Maple Grove. And then Connor Desiderio from Maryville, 3 touchdowns first quarter. The quarterbacks had a good week this weekend.
Oh yeah, and putting up incredible numbers. So, Aaron Chase may have the lead right now, at least in my eyes, but we got a long way to go before the end of the season.
If you remember at this point last year, we were talking about the McKinley running back as coming off as the lead for Fields.
Yep.
Coming out as the early lead, and then by the end of the time coming to the Conley Cup, he wasn't even in the top 10. So just because we're saying 2 games into this is the leader, doesn't mean this is where it's going to end up.
No, we're
still
saying
on the
because
same
these are
track.
eye-popping numbers.
Absolutely.
They
No
get
doubt.
your attention. There's no question about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the games that we checked out last night and get to some of the games that are going on today. You're listening to Inside High School Sports on WGR Sports Radio 550. Francis Beck from WNY Athletics is here, as along with Roger Weiss, Derek Kramer producing. Before we get to the games, I do have to give a shout out to TTFA football. You guys are first class, you're wonderful people. We had a couple injuries in our game last night, and the coaching staff over there, they couldn't do enough to help us out with the injured players. And to receive a friend request on Facebook from a parent of a player whose player was concerned about the injuries just shows me that they're doing things right at TTFA, and I just wanted to thank them on the air.
Tony, I neglected to mention earlier, and we should make it a point. Tonight, Lake Shore football team plays at Eden. It is a 7 o'clock game. It is not a 2 o'clock game, as has been reported throughout the week in some circles. So,
Hey, did that game, was that one of the games that was changed before the start of the week?
not the start of the week.
The start of the season, I mean.
Yeah, it might have been,
Because I know there was two changes
Yeah,
that
I
Tim
don't think-
Slade sent and I had posted.
yeah, I
on.
don't know if that was posted there. I think for all intent and purposes, Eden, it was a 7 o'clock game all year, but people just assumed it was a 2 o'clock game at Eden. It is not. They are playing at 7 this evening.
Score that I missed: Clymer, Sherman, Panama 55, Maple Grove 20. All right, guys, let's talk about the games. Francis, what game would you like to talk about?
I was at, Cheek to Walker East Shore last night.
You were
They-
checking out the new digs. I
Yeah,
saw that.
That was good. And what made that night, more special than the fact they were opening this new stadium was they honored the 10 families from 1978 that came together and raised $15,000 for extracurricular activities at the school after the school budget had failed 3 times that year.
Wow.
Yeah, these families stepped up, only 10, $15,000 from 10 families. They raised all this money, and in many ways, it was really them. They got the ball rolling for why they had the stadium here tonight and why
Cool.
athletics was so important. You can see the tradition with just that football program they had, and it's a lot thanks to these families. So a shout out to them. Just a special night. This was more than a stadium opening.
Mm-hmm. What about the game itself?
Oh yeah, the game was pretty good.
Did they play a game?
Yeah, they did play a game. It was the Beal and Bass show. They connected 3 times. They connected for 3 touchdowns, almost 5 twice. They hit each other. Bass went out at the 1. The first time, the time ran out at the half. They couldn't score, but the second time a tailback took it in. Strong game from Cheek to Walker, as you would expect against
Right.
East Aurora Holland. They had this new tailback, Hughes. I forget his first name. He didn't score, but he had a lot of strong runs. I expect him to have a good year this season.
Show a lot of speed, I would assume.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of speed.
Tom, you were at Orchard Park.
I was at Orchard Park, so a lot of things went on over there. First of all, they actually had ceremonies to congratulate and thank legendary coach
Gene Tundo,
Gene Tundo.
who's
for,
now wide receiver coach for ECC.
Correct, but Gene had his entire family there, and they thanked him at halftime and celebrated him at halftime.
Cool.
So that was real big to be able to witness down in Orchard Park. A great game, 28-14 was the final there. You saw what I think should be a Conley Cup nominee this week in Archie Bartolotti. Archie Bartolotti catches 2 touchdowns on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, 2 interceptions to add into it. Had a phenomenal game. You can definitely see it was a standout of the game. Was close early on. Their quarterback, they started out with JoJo Dixon for Niagara Falls. Unbelievable speed this kid has. You could see whenever he got to the outside, he was going to make a run. He was the one who scored their first touchdown for Niagara Falls. Seemed to struggle, though, with the arm, with throwing the ball a little bit. And then they actually made a change, Niagara Falls, towards the end of the game to Deontay Matthews, who you can see from a quarterback standpoint was definitely able to make some more passes.
Maybe the
and-
better thrower of the two,
Bingo.
when the other one's a better runner.
Bingo.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
exactly
that's
what
usually
you
how it goes down. You have to decide, do I want to go with my running guy or my throwing guy?
Yep. And then they scored a late touchdown. It was
It was
28
28-6, and then they got the touchdown and 2-point conversion to make it closer.
But definitely for Orchard Park, the first week was a run. more of a run team. This was definitely more of a passing team this week. Jack Sharp had a great game. You could see him passing to all his different receivers and using his receivers to his ability. So great game by also Jack Sharp.
Nice. Raj?
Yeah, you mentioned, Bartolotti, you didn't mention, or did you, Irizarry, 3 touchdowns.
Irizarry had two
According-
touchdowns.
According to,
No, he had two
two
run
runs and a
touchdowns.
pass.
Yeah, no,
45-yard pass for a touchdown?
no, that was Bartolotti.
Alright, so that's a misprint in the
Yep,
paper.
that's Bartolotti. It was Bartolotti who had 2, and then Irizarry ran the ball in twice.
Okay.
It's funny that you talk about Gene Tundo, and last night I'm watching North Tonawanda Sweet Home, and North Tonawanda coming out there with that option that made me think Orchard Park. I'm like, oh my God, how much influence did Gene have on Eric Jancy when he spent some time with OP? And I like watching because this is an offense you don't see too much. So we had 2 option teams, but different style options. One going with the Sweet Home with the spread option. It was neat. Both teams struggled with the pass. They were pretty much relying on the run. And block punt for a safety to start the game off was pretty interesting. So it was enjoyable. The stands were packed. I don't think you could find another seat in there. Saw longtime basketball official Mike Greenberg there. Of course, he's an old Sweet Home guy, so it was nice to see him and reconnect. But great atmosphere and a good game. It was fun to watch. Of course, North Tonawanda had come back from behind. They were down 17-7, and just kept chipping away at it. And then finally, the game winner with like 4 seconds left or something like that, gave them the win. So that was fun to watch.
Yeah, the kicker was Connor DeVanter. He had 2 field goals in the win. And they came down, I believe, 17-7 at the half, I read.
Yeah, it was 17-7. Sweet Home, they had, their quarterback, he's a nice runner, and if you don't account for him for the linebackers, he's gonna chew you up. And I was really impressed too with Sweet Home's inside linebackers, even though North Tonawanda was doing a pretty good job pounding it up the middle. But those 2 were getting in there, sticking their nose and making some plays. That was neat.
So I will tell you, and you've heard me say this a couple times now, Tony, the team you gotta watch out for, who is gonna make some upsets here, is Pioneer. Pioneer with a huge win over Iroquois, very significant too, 42-14 win for Pioneer this week. They're being driven by the line play. It is a very strong line, and you can see they actually took it to another team this week. I am dying to see when they match up and be able to play Maryville and Cheektowaga,
And Newport as well.
You can talk about all the different types of systems that are out there, but it comes down to the battle of the trenches. Your lineman, that's gonna win. Your offensive or defensive line is gonna win or lose your games.
Mike Briegerman had a big day. We had our guy Mike Straw at the game. Briegerman had 5 touchdowns, 279 yards rushing. He had 11 tackles on defense and an interception. And he's also the punter. So early in the game, there was a punt. The snap went over his head. So he goes back, gets it, and throws it to his tight end, converts the 4th down.
Big. Big.
No big deal.
No big. Watch me do this. Hold my Pepsi. Here you go.
And then at the halftime, I believe he was working in the concession stands as well. And everything else, why not?
Raj, where were you last night?
I went down south again to Southwestern. Southwestern played Randolph,
Oh, I didn't have that score.
35-14, I believe.
Yep.
Cole Snyder looks like the real deal. Big Ten, I don't know. He's going to Rutgers, right? That's
Yep.
Big
Yeah.
Ten now. Interesting.
Doesn't
also-
Rutgers play Ohio State today?
They play probably a big.
they're in the-
It's
they're in
probably a
that
Big
big-
Ten team. I'm sure they should be done with their non-league schedule already. Yeah, he looks real good. The interesting thing, and of course, I might be jumping the gun. I don't know how good Wilson is this year. Can they hang with Cleveland Hill this afternoon in probably one of the bigger games? But having said that, if, and I'm projecting, and I might be jumping the gun, if Cleveland Hill happens to knock off Wilson, and it looks like second place in The Class C South will be between whoever wins Randolph Frewsburg versus Kurt Fisher and Chautauqua Lake. That whoever the third place team is, they would have to travel in week 9 for the semifinal game from somewhere in the Jamestown area all the way up to Wilson for a road game.
Oh my! Hey, I look at it like when we go to Wilson from Niagara Falls. Man, that's a trip. To go from
Exactly.
Jamestown. Whoa.
I mentioned that to Brett Brown at the end of the game last night, the coach for Randolph, and that, and I says, you know what you're up against if you finish third, don't you? Going up to Wilson, he says, oh my God, we might have to stay overnight in Buffalo and finish the trip the next morning.
Yeah, that's some
Does
dry
Wilson
heat.
have lights, by the way?
Yes.
All right, so that
lights.
would be a Friday night game, so they might have to leave Thursday night, stay in Buffalo Friday.
They might have to
and
leave
finish the
school at like 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, don't even go to class.
trip. Yeah, really, that's,
Ooh, would they have the chowder made for that game? I'm sorry.
you know,
I can't help it. It smells so good.
yeah, but you gotta realize, for you listeners out there, you gotta realize Tony hasn't eaten in about almost 45 minutes, so give the guy a break, all right?
No, I last ate at 7.
You know, Tony,
Which I am
You
due
do
for
look
something to
famished,
eat.
you do look famished, Anthony.
I think there's one game we haven't even discussed that was probably the game of the night, and the one that was most active on social media has to be Will North Clarence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
overtime, battle of heavyweights. Are you kidding me?
Oh, that.
Even Jim Kelly was tweeting about
Yes, and double A, you just figure these teams, bearing in mind, they play an 8-week schedule instead of 7, they play all,
it. They play everybody, yeah.
every league opponent, so there's only 4 teams making a playoff. So you're thinking between Clarence, Will North, Orchard Park, Bennett, Hutch Tech, and Lancaster, 2 of those teams are going to the Funky Bowl. So wins are at a premium. You probably have to have a five wins, 2 losses to assure making the playoffs. 4 and 3, depending on the tiebreakers and all that. You could be on the outside looking in.
Yeah,
Very competitive.
Joe Nunzal hit Dylan Kelly the 44-yard TD pass in overtime to win it, and that's why Jim Kelly said, you know, that was his nephew.
Yes.
One of his nephews. So big game.
Isn't Jim's
there.
brother helping out with coaching?
Yes, his brother, Dylan's
Dan?
father. Yeah, Dan is helping out with coaching.
Oh, that's pretty
I would
neat.
say that was the one game when Frank and I were looking at the schedule this week where we knew it was going to be close. There were a lot of question marks. We thought there would be a lot of blowouts, which are kind of were. That was the one game we knew that there would be close, and we have a recap of that game. We sent our Mike Pedanik there, but big game.
In fact, the last time I saw Jim and Jill Kelly was at a Williamsville North game. It was a few years ago. Well, I'm glad that he's out there getting excited about Will North football. That's neat. All right, guys, let's take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll go through some of the other games and take a look at some of the games going on today. Don't forget, Sports Talk Saturday is up next, following us at 11 o'clock. You're listening to Inside High School Sports on WGR Sports Radio 550. taking a few swings, getting ready to get out there. All right, games from last night. Albion over beating Lackawanna. I think that's pretty significant. Francis, 43-8.
7 takeaways for Albion, 5 picks.
Yeah, turnovers are going to kill you.
Eugene Harrison led the way with 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
I mean, Lackawanna is always known as a strong team in
Right.
football, and Albion, that's a big score. That
You just
really
can't
is.
turn the ball over that many times. So, another one. Medina, Lindenville, Barker beating Springville in a close game, 28-24.
Yeah, sophomore Brian Fry, 7 catches, 109 yards. He also hit a 65-yard punt return touchdown.
Have a day.
This Medina team's a young team, right? This is their baseball, the same exact way. You guys know I love talking baseball with it. Brian Fry's also a great baseball player to boot. You're talking about a young team that is mainly juniors and sophomores here that you're going to see make a run for Medina.
Portville also got their win. It's their first, they beat Allegheny Limestone 37-19. It was their first league win in 3 years, and it's the first win under new coach Josh Brooks. QB Mike Stillman had 4 touchdowns.
So using Allegheny Limestone as a barometer, then they game Portville versus Chautauqua Lake. That'll be a very interesting game. Both games were Allegheny Limestone lost by the same margin, so, and that could be a key as to who might finish second in Class D and host the semifinal game. Bearing in mind that Class D now plays a double round robin, so it's a little early to start projecting and all
Yeah.
that, but nonetheless, something to keep in mind.
You also, Francis, you wanted to talk about Olean, their win over Depew, 39-29. If I would say Olean's even it up at 1-1 now.
I believe. I don't have any highlights
Yeah,
from
pretty
that
sure
game.
they lost in
Yes,
week
they
1.
did.
So they bringing it back, and that's another thing. And teams that are able to bounce back after a loss in week 1, that's so important when you can do that. Get yourself some momentum going for the rest of the way, and rather than starting out 0-2, where now you're sitting there spinning your wheels, you might be stuck in the mud, thinking to yourself, now what do I do?
Yeah, this is an interesting year too, Tony, from the perspective of playoffs. I think we've been talking about it a lot. This is finally, I think, a year where every game's got meaning behind it. Like one
And that's what you
loss
want.
could kick you out of a playoffs. One game could be the difference of you going to the playoffs or not. We've talked about the A class, which there's going to be a good team not in the playoffs there. There will be. You're talking about Double A that we've now said. A 5th and 6th good teams with winning records could possibly not go to the playoffs.
All right, with that being said, then, how important is the tiebreaker? So you're not going to have coaches take their foot off the gas. They're going to keep it floored for 4 quarters.
Well,
until the
you
final
need 20
whistle
points.
blows.
If you-
Especially on defense, because the 3rd or 4th tiebreaker is defensive points,
Allowed.
against. And so, yeah, if they're up, I don't know, if they're up by 4 touchdowns, they might back off on
On offense, but not on
offense, they
defense.
will not back off on defense.
Well-
That's a, recipe for disaster
What-
if they do.
What's
So you
gonna
can still
happen-
sit there and blitz from every angle that you can, if that's your game.
Well, what's going to happen is with 2 minutes to go, if somebody's up by 16, they're going to try to get one more touchdown. If it's
Absolutely, it's
26,
that
you're
20
gonna,
point, they gotta hit that 20 point.
yeah, you got to hit that 20-point mark.
So that, so it does have a downside in the fact that you don't have the opportunity to really get your younger players in there to get some quality reps during a game. I mean, it's one thing to get your reps during practice, but it's another to get reps during the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it, especially you're talking about, 14-point games, like a game like that, which normally would have been where if you're in the 4th quarter, maybe late, you're trying to get some people in, it's not happening.
Last night was an example of the game I was at, 35-14, that's a 21-point differential. Southwestern surely isn't gonna take any of their defensive starters out, and if at the very least, although it's hard with Cole Snyder ball control, because they put up points almost at will, and Randolph played a good game last night. The game was a lot closer than 35-14, but again, like you put it, Anthony, you cannot take your foot off the accelerator.
Who's playing today?
All right, we have 5 games today, all with very interesting storylines. We have Maritime at South Park. Maritime's first game in Section 6.
Is that at All High?
That's going to be at All High. Very interesting rivalry. Charlie Comerford and Coach Delaney. We'll see how that all plays out. The game I'm going to be at 2 o'clock.
How could you call it a rivalry? It's
I think
Maritime's
it's-
first game, first season.
I think
not
that's
a
going
rivalry.
to be a rivalry.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
calling
I
it.
It may be in the future,
I
but you
think
can't
he
call
meant
it
coach to
yet.
coach,
Coach
just
to coach,
because
that's
there's some
right.
past there. That's all.
What happened when weren't they both at their respective schools when Sanders jumped from
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the
South
rivalry
Park
he's talking
to,
about.
Timon
Yep.
after the scrimmage week?
I forgot about that, yeah.
The
Okay.
game I'm going to be at is Wilson at Cleve Hill. That's going to be played at Maryville. I think this is going to be a big game for Cleveland Hill, and here's why. They put Aaron Waller, their kid, who was running back last year. He's now a quarterback, and I think, yeah, they're running their traditional offense. So I think it's a big game for them to get their players into their new roles. I think they're going to be fine, but Wilson's going to put up a tough test with their quarterback Stephen Frericks. This kid's big. He can throw the ball. I'm going to be there, Facebook Live, keeping track of that.
With Waller playing at the quarterback, isn't it almost like a Wildcat situation?
Not
Yeah.
really. I was talking to Coach Riley from Maryville. That's not necessarily what they're doing. They're running mostly their traditional offense. That quarterback, it's
Which
interesting.
could be confused
That
with
just
the
so happens that
Wildcats.
he has the ability to scramble, okay.
Another game I'm looking at, Niagara Wheatfield. They had that big win last week. When you look at their schedule, they have a chance. They could be undefeated going into Week 6 against
That's
West
big.
Seneca West, and with a division title on the line. We'll see.
That's for a
Obviously,
program has not been, on the upside for a while. They've
They
been
need
clawing
to
their way
win.
back the last 3 or 4 years.
They need to win. They need to win big, and then they have a short week coming up. They have a Thursday game.
That hurts.
Yeah, that hurts. If they can get through that, they're in really good shape.
And not only do they want to get through healthy. That's the big thing. You know, and I know it's very difficult to coach that way, but you know, when you got a short turnaround like that, you can't afford to have bumps and bruises.
In the nightcap, we have 2 late games. McKinley, Grand Island, 2 teams coming off, tough losses last week. Cam Cianico, I believe, won't be in for the Vikings, unfortunately. We'll see
Yeah.
how those 2 teams
What was that, an
respond.
ankle injury? I can't remember.
I forget. Somewhere, but yeah,
I think
leg.
it's lower
body for sure.
Okay,
And
so
then-
we're going back to hockey here. Lower body injury.
And then the last game, Lake Shore with new coach Dan Russell, they head to Eden North Collins. That could be an interesting matchup. Both of those last 2 games are at 7 o'clock tonight, not 2.
Kind of nice having some Saturday night games. Although, get out there, go. It's gonna be chilly. It's gonna be a little cold, so you don't want to
Chilly. It,
bundle up.
it was like 90 degrees earlier this week.
Well, compared to 90 degrees, yeah, this is chilly.
What are you gonna do when winter gets here?
Freeze, like I do every year. I can't stand winter. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks to Derek Kramer. Go out there, catch some games today, have some fun, and just enjoy the weekend. That's what it's all about. We'll talk to you next week with more Inside High School Sports.
Think you have gained 550 games.